I am currently fighting with my wife. She has a high position at a university. She has her PhD and has little respect for people who don't have an education. My sister is the same age as my wife and she is also very successful. Probably a bit more than my wife. She doesn't have the education my wife does, but she has managed to be successful. She does lie on her resume saying she has a bachelor's degree. Recently, my sister was hired as a big wig for a company in New York. My wife was so angry when she heard about it. She said that my sister was a liar and a fraud and that she should never have been given the job. Flash forward 2 weeks. My sister calls me to tell me that she was let go because someone called the office to let them know that she did not have a bachelor's degree. When I brought this up to my wife, she admitted that she did in fact call my sister's job and let them know. I was stunned by this news. My sister is responsible for taking care of our sick mother and she is an incredible person. She has worked over 2 decades in her field and she has been very successful. I'm aware that she should not lie on her resume, but the company hired her after a background check and at the end of the day, what the hell cares? I had a huge fight with my wife about butting into my sister's business. I pointed out that she herself has lied about her experience at times and that she should have stayed out of it. Now my sister is unemployed and I have no idea how she is going to pay for our mother's nursing home fees. I have little money and my wife certainly isn't going to help. This decision by my wife is causing unbelievable ripples in our family. My sister helps pay for our niece's college, she's paid for our other sister's medical care after major surgery, and she's also helped me out by paying for my rehab 3 years ago when my insurance wouldn't cover the full 30 days. She also donates 10% of her income to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. She's a good person who wasn't able to afford college. My wife is livid with me for being angry with her. She says that I should support her and understand that this is a major issue for her, people lying about degrees, etc., and that it's my sister's fault for lying, and that maybe now she'll get a job that she's actually qualified for. I have not told my sister that my wife got her fired, and my wife has threatened to leave me if I tell her. Am I the idiot for being angry at my wife for doing this to my sister? Am I the idiot for not telling my sister how this happened? Not the idiot. I don't agree with your sisters to lie and this was a natural consequence of it. Your sister gambled that she could get away with a lie and she lost. I've got very little sympathy for her on that one. However, your wife just set your whole family on fire, treated your sister with contempt and hatred, and that's not reasonable or responsible. Your marriage is probably over whether you tell your sister what happened or not. It probably should be. The woman who will do that kind of harm to your sister, your mother, your niece, will do it to you too if she feels justified. Everyone's the idiot here. Your wife should mind her own business, which makes her an idiot. Your sister is an idiot for lying about a bachelor's. No matter how good of a person is, do not lie about accomplishments which aren't yours. You are an idiot for the fact you keep defending your sister. I kind of understand your wife's anger, she worked very hard for her degree, and your sister just makes one up and is equally successful. Kind of see where your wife is coming from. Not the idiot. Your wife is an idiot. Your sister has been in the field for 2 decades. She's qualified. This isn't some 22-year-old with no experience. Unfortunately, we live in a society where having a college degree doesn't mean being qualified, it's basically just become a minimum bar. And those who can't afford college can't then advance. It's not like your sister is lying about having a medical degree or something, I hope. And the fact that your wife won't help with your mother's nursing home fees. She has an I've got mine and doesn't care how many people she screws in the process. How do you and your wife address finances in the home? I, 22, have an older sister, 25. My sister is very sensitive about everything. When we were young, if I made the smallest comment like I prefer pink over blue, it would make her cry because she thought I was aiming at her by saying it. My parents would always ask me to apologize to her since she's sensitive and I'm emotionally stronger than her. My parents never controlled my sister's diet growing up, letting her have what she wanted since they found it too difficult to control her. I was skinny as a stick when I was a kid, so even though my family has a long history of thyroid disease, my parents didn't think there was an issue with me. However, my sister has been overweight the majority of her life, so my parents thought she'd be the one with the thyroid issues. They took us to an endocrinologist when I was 10. I got a diagnosis for Hashimoto's thyroiditis while my sister didn't and instead got told to exercise and watch her diet. I got hypothyroidism due to Hashimoto's and have been on medication ever since. My sister and I moved back in with our parents due to what's happening these days. I leave my medication in a cabinet near the kitchen since I know I won't take it unless I have to actually get out of bed to do so. Apparently, I left a box before I moved out of my parents' house when I was a teen, and one of her friends saw it while they were over and asked if it was hers. My sister told them that it was, and that's why she was overweight. The box has Euthyrox written on it in big bold letters with a little picture of a thyroid gland next to it. So yeah, pretty obvious it was meant for a thyroid condition. She's held up this farce for almost 4 years. I only figured it out when I saw her take a box of it out of my bag one day. I confront her on it and she starts crying and telling me that she just didn't want anyone to mean to her because she's fat. She also says that it's not fair that the one with a normal weight gets the thyroid disease. I'm just staring at her gobsmacked. She's complaining that she doesn't have an autoimmune condition. I tell her to knock it off and that she can't lie to get sympathy from people. My parents talk to me later and they say that I was too harsh calling her a liar and she probably needs a therapist or something and the classic I should apologize since I'm more mature. They even tell me that they were hoping that she was the one with the thyroid issues as a child so that they could justify her weight gain. I ask them, so you wanted your daughter to be sick instead of admitting that it's your fault because you bought her McDonald's whenever she wanted it and never made her exercise. Now they're mad at me too. Not the idiot. What the heck? My sister has Hashimoto's as well. I'm pissed that anyone would be jealous of someone who has the disease. Hashimoto can have a very large effect on your day-to-day life. I just don't understand where your sister is coming from. If she doesn't want to be judged for her weight, she needs to get better friends, work on herself through therapy, and work towards losing weight rather than blaming all of her shortcomings on anything but herself. Not the idiot. I will say, intense body dysmorphia will make you do or say some crazy crap, and your sister clearly grew up around a lot of fatphobia, as did a lot of us, which made her feel a need to somehow justify her body. She's still an idiot for her actions, but honestly, your parents are the actual idiots here. They have been babying your sister, while seemingly also being embarrassed by her body, and then doubling down by not encouraging healthy habits or therapy. They also consistently ask you to fold to her, which isn't good for either of you. So yeah, not the idiot. Not the idiot. I, 22, have had Hashimoto since I was 8. I was on the opposite side of the spectrum and was a chunky little kid, which is why I was tested. I hate it when people blame their weight gain on Hashimoto's rather than as an explanation. I have accepted that I'm a little chunkier and it's not all due to my thyroid issues, it's just part of it. I've been able to adjust my eating habits, see what works well with my body and doesn't, what makes me feel good and what doesn't. You learn to adapt. It sounds like she needs to learn about her body and make some adjustments. Yeah, I know you assume we're all idiots anyway. I frequently get asked by people with college-age kids to talk to them about going to law school. I know that the parents assume I will try to talk their kid into going to law school. However, no one ever phrases it that way or specifically asks me to talk them into going. I typically happily agree to chat with their precocious undergraduate. I never tell the parents what I am going to say to their kids. Then I tell those kids the truth. Being a lawyer is frequently a crap show and not at all what TV or movies make it appear. Law school is difficult and expensive. Many lawyers start practicing in their mid to late 20s with over $200,000 in student loans. The job itself is often both stressful and boring, which is a weird emotional place to be in. Depending on the nature of the practice, you are probably going to be dealing with tight deadlines with real consequences constantly. Certain kinds of practices, family law being the low-hanging fruit here, usually generate a lot of stress and negative emotions. There are lawyers out there making over $175,000 per year right out of school. Those people are usually working 90+ hour work weeks. It's a grind. Oh, and law firms are typically a pyramid scheme holding out equity partnership as the carrot and reward for a decade or so of trench labor. A very small percentage of attorneys make it to that lofty perch. The median attorney salary in the USA is around $45,000 per year. Try to pay off $200,000 in loans on that kind of pay. I spoke to an acquaintance's college senior kid earlier this week for about a half hour and laid all of this out. The parent then called me up to yell at me for ruining their plans for their daughter's future. I told them that I agreed to talk to their kid about being a lawyer and that I never said I would try to paint a rosy picture. I even pointed out that they didn't ask me to sell the idea, they just asked if I would talk about it. The daughter is still planning on taking the law school admission test, along with the graduate record examination and maybe the medical college admission test. So, am I the idiot for not trying to talk these promising young men and women into selling their souls for an esquire? Not the idiot, originally planned to do law school, changed mind a semester into undergrad university and became a computer science major. Was offered a job my senior year making what I thought I would as a lawyer, and I didn't have to go to school an extra 3 years to get my Juris Doctor, except instead of doing paperwork I would basically get to go to work every day and play around. The parents need to chill and let their kids figure out what they want to do, because if they hate what they're doing, they're not going to succeed at it. Not the idiot. Anyone who still wants to go to law school after hearing your spiel will make a great lawyer because they really want it. Anyone turned off by your spiel never wanted it bad enough in the first place and probably wouldn't have made it through law school. You're saving kids from being pushed into career paths they don't want by their parents. The parents are idiots for using you as a mouthpiece to force their kids into a career they don't want and expecting you to lie to do it. You're the idiot. Another baby lawyer here. I had people give me this type of advice and thankfully ignored it. Law school was always my dream, but lawyers love to complain about the job. I met a federal judge I was really excited about connecting with, and he told me I should be a plumber instead. It's demeaning. First, you're wrong about median income. Second, it most likely comes across as them not being able to do it. Be honest about it being hard, but don't make someone who has probably done research you're talking about driven people and knows it's hard feel like you're just trying to know what's best for them. Daughter Gemma, 23. Boyfriend Jay, 22. Jay has been living with my family for a couple of months. He is a very nice young fellow and treats my daughter like a queen, which definitely gets him some points in my book. However, I think it is safe for me to say that Jay hasn't had the easiest life. His mother left when he was little and his father treated him like dirt. Jay was kicked out of his home when he was 18. For the most part, he has been pretty open about the time after his father kicked him out. He got a job and managed to get a flat after sleeping on some friends' couches for a few months. However, being very vague when asked, he has said that he's had to do some things that he's not very proud of to earn some extra money. Well, last week, I found out what those things were. Myself, my wife and Gemma all got an email with a link to a video. That video turned out to be an adult movie. An adult movie that Jay was acting in. Fortunately, his face was not in the video, but Jay has several scars on his torso, scars that were evident in the video. His voice was also particularly easy to recognize. I really didn't know what to think. My first thought was to confront Jay and ask him about it. To my surprise, he was very honest about the whole thing. He had been struggling with money back then and had done several amateur adult movies for some extra money. He also admitted to having online relationships with older men and women who would send him money in return for explicit images and videos. This was hinted at in the email, but only the one link was sent. He says he is not proud of it, but he did what he felt like he had to at the time to make some extra money. He told us he was careful to not show his face and avoided using his real name at all costs. Now, you must understand that we come from what would be considered a more conservative family. My wife and I are more open and have nothing but respect for people who choose to work in the love industry. That being said, a lot of our other relatives aren't as open to the idea. We also have 3 other children, 19, 15, and 14, to think about. I do not want our children thinking that this is okay. We are raising them to be independent, but if they need help then they are more than welcome to ask my wife and I. I'd rather my children weren't out there doing what Jay did for money. I have told Jay as much and requested he find somewhere else to stay. He is welcome to visit if he likes, but I do not feel comfortable with him living with us, especially my children, at this point in time. They are still young and easily influenced. My wife isn't happy and Gemma won't speak to me. I brought the matter up with a trusted family member and they completely understand where I'm coming from. You're the idiot. It's clearly not something he talks about, so why are you worried about the impact on your children? Why would they know? It sounds like he is a survivor. He got into it to make ends meet, was as careful as possible to hide his identity, and is now not in it. He has been discreet. When you found out, he was honest. Up until that point, he was vague. It's your wife's house too, and she is unhappy with your decision. Why are you making a unilateral decision? You're the idiot. Of course, your family member agrees with you, since by your own admission your family is quite conservative. There is no reason your other children would have to find out about Jay's past, and if they did somehow, you can just tell them he did some things you personally don't agree with when he was very desperate and had no family support or help, and use it as a teaching moment to assure them you will always be there to help them, should they ever for a moment think about resorting to something like that. I'm going to be gentle here. But Kinda. The whole reason Jay chose that line of work was to avoid homelessness. It would be scary to be 18 and have no money and nowhere to stay. Your other children don't need to know about Jay's choices. Also, how would your children know they can come to you for help if you don't help your daughter's significant other? People don't often choose love work because they want it, they choose it out of necessity. Whoever sent you that link is someone that wants to condemn Jay for what he did to survive. I would rethink that relationship over the one with Jay. Like a lot of people, I had to save up and buy my own car. I was lucky to find an old Volvo in 2016 when I started my freshman year of college. All 4 of my siblings got cars from my parents, but times changed and they couldn't afford one for me. My sister, who I love, has crashed 2 of her cars. Each time my other siblings pitched in to buy her another car. At the time it didn't really bother me since I had my own car. In 2019 my Volvo had major mechanical failures and the repairs would cost more than the value of the car. I had a job, but I still couldn't afford the repairs. So I spent my senior year of college without a car. Thankfully the bus system was amazing and it took me to my job and other places I needed to go. In January my sister's car broke down, but it still works. I woke up last week to a new car in the driveway and for a few minutes, I thought it was mine. When it was given to my sister I lost it. Everyone in my family was home and I let them have it. She doesn't have a job so she doesn't need it for work. This is her 3rd car. My internship couldn't bring me on full time, so I can't afford to buy a car. I am still pissed off at what happened. They knew I need a car and they bought her one. Not the idiot. This whole "you're not entitled" line of reasoning sometimes goes too far here. If your family's internal culture is to pull together and help each other when you can, and you've participated in that as a general rule, then heck yes you're entitled to their help when it's your turn. That's the dynamic that's been set up in your family and what you've been raised to believe in, not just expect. For the people here wishing to be pedantic, the fact is, you may not be entitled to a car, but you are entitled to reciprocation. Not the idiot. Why would anyone keep buying cars for someone who keeps breaking them? It is only natural for you to see the precedent of your family buying cars for someone after theirs broke and assume that they would do the same for you after your car broke. That being said, you aren't entitled to a car and should tell your family just that. You aren't upset because you don't have a car, but because you feel like your sister gets preferential treatment over you. Maybe you can ask your sister to share the car with you so that you can take it to get to work and she can use it on the weekends or something like that. Not the idiot. From what you're saying it's not just about the car, but overall patterns of how your sister is treated compared to you, and those feelings of hurt are valid. OP. I'm not too sure if your family's reaction was defensive or open to listening and understanding your feelings, but if this heart-to-heart doesn't cause them to be more conscious of their actions, maybe it's time to think about how much emotional labor you want to put into these relationships if you're frequently left feeling like an outsider.